Fire Radio.
This episode is brought to you by HME Aaron's Fox. When it comes to fire apparatus, the industry right now is facing some big challenges. Higher cost, long delivery times, and uncertainty at every turn. But that's where HME Aaron's Fox stands apart. Built in the U.S. with a legacy that dates back for over a century, HME Aaron's Fox is redefining what departments can expect from their next rig. Their lineup of custom and commercial pumpers, tankers, and wildland trucks are designed with precision, craftsmanship, and purpose. And most importantly, they're available. While other manufacturers are quoting years out, HME continues to deliver trucks that are ready for service, bucking the national trend of the new normal. They've streamlined their process, focused on smart engineering, kept their builds affordable, reliable, and attainable for departments of every size. So if your department is tired of waiting and ready to put a new rig on the street, it's time to take a closer look at HME Aaron's Fox. Visit firetrucks.com to see what's ready to roll today and experience a company that's truly flipped the script on the fire apparatus industry. Hey everyone, Jeremy, National Fire Radio. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, an incredible guest, a good friend, a mentor, somebody that I believe brings tremendous value to the fire service. Dave Gallagher, my man, the OG. Thanks for joining me, man.
It is an honor and a pleasure once again to be here, Jeremy. It's always humbling. It's humbling to think that I might still have something to offer, and it's humbling to have this format, considering, some of the legends that you have on, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I treasure, what we've had in these years in a short time, and it's always been great. And you bring it, and that's what counts.
So much there. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. But what I value more than everything is our friendship. And
absolutely.
You and I, it's funny. So I talk about this often on the podcast, right? I talk about the importance of staying connected with people and out of sight, out of mind. And so it's important for me once a week. I do Rolodex bingo in my phone. I flip through my contacts and I'll make a phone call. You and I, you have, my Rolodex bingo has landed on your name more than once in the last couple of years. And
yes.
And I would call and I would check in or send a text and say hello. And I'll tell you, it's just, I don't know what it is, but our last conversation was very much that. I reached out. I said I wanted to have you on the pod again. Wanted to get you back on. I missed your face. I missed your wisdom and your insights. And then you ended the conversation where we talked about a bunch of things. It was nice to catch up, but you ended the conversation saying you don't know how much you needed that. And
yes.
That to me is exactly why I do what I do, right? It's like we were talking before I hit record about, and you just said it, in your intro, you're like, I don't know if I have more to contribute or not. I don't know what else I have to offer, but you have so much to offer. And all these guys that have spent so many years in this business, the fire service. I mean, you still have an incredible passion for it, but you still ride the highs and lows just like guys on the line today. There's days that you're in love with it and other days that you just feel like you're falling out of love with it, right? It's that balance, that dichotomy of this crazy thing that we do. But Dave, you have so much to bring, and sometimes we just need to be reminded of that, right? How important is that for you? How important are those connections, those relationships, and just finding your way, man?
It's interesting you say that, because my Rolodex has been more focused on guys my generation, ones that, and I hate to put it this way, but sometimes it seems like the only way, we're kind of on the outside looking in now. Some of us haven't been in a fire station, rode a rig to a first due call, and whatever. Sue and I were actually up in Massachusetts a few months ago, and we came upon a rollover auto accident on a highway in Massachusetts, and the car's on its side in the trees on fire, and a guy sticking his head out. Well, a number of us worked on it, and we were able to get the guy out, no big deal. But I said, that's the most fun I've had in probably 10 years. And the thing is, I'm in a pair of shorts, a Hawaiian shirt, and all that. So, but you're right that it never leaves you. And I think that, when you compare different careers, whether it's military, law enforcement, fire, when you're intervening, I think that's a good term. When you're intervening in a situation on somebody else's behalf, and we tend to call that a mission, that sort of thing stays with you. And the tough part is the goods and the bads. I've, a couple chat groups on Facebook that I was just shocked to hear that some of them have these, and I mean, they haven't been in a firehouse in 30 years. It's been a long time. And it seems like that 20 or 25, 30 years, the breakover, but we don't have the nightmares as much, but they have these same weird dreams that I do. Like, I'm in the firehouse, tones go off, I'm running around, I can't find my gear, and the rigs are leaving.
Right.
I'm not the only one. There's hundreds of people doing that. And I'm like, this is so bizarre. And, everywhere from New York to California. And I'm like, how does this happen? What does this mean? So that tells me, we're still interested. We're still in the game.
What does it mean? What do you think it means?
I think it means that it's like watching the retired racehorses in the field. Somebody, I've seen them wear, they've got these, because one daughter, Katie, she's big into horse racing. She's big into horses. And she'll come up with these videos where there's these retired racehorses, right? These thoroughbreds, these winners that are in Kentucky or whatever. And somebody will play a recording of a race. And you hear the bell hit and the gate opens, and you should see what these horses do. They hear the trumpet call to post and all that, and they get excited. They start running up and down when they hear the bell of the gate open, and that's just somebody playing it over a phone or whatever. I think there's always going to be that passion there. You and I have been to events where guys that make me look young are still there, still pitching, still talking about it. I was the Joey D, where it was the book signing, and they had all these guys from La Casa Grande, 82 and 31 there, and it's like, these were the guys I read about,
right, and
all that. I was starstruck, and it was like, you start seeing these names, and it's like, holy cow. And what I wished that I could take that experience, bottle it, and then pass it on to somebody else. Because even with the technology, even with the thermal imaging, even with the everything, there's still the nugget that you've got to have what it takes to cross the threshold. And, if I was going to go down a road during this conversation, and you prefaced it, and I was watching your video the other day about we're quick to blame, we're quick to point fingers. The one thing, and it took me a while to learn this, and I had a couple of mentors of mine go, hang on a minute, before you go to light somebody up, find out where'd they learn their information.
Yes.
Who taught them? So maybe we're not doing a good job by blaming the one who we think isn't doing it correctly. We may need to dig deeper, watch game film, go back, etc. I mean, because part of a contest like this is you got to watch some film. You've got to review. You've got to critique. Critique can be held very well. Critique can be held very poorly. But who taught them to do it that way? Because they're just doing what they were taught. And when they got a stamp that said, yep, you passed the academy, they think, hey, I'm good, so I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
And then they get out on the street and somebody goes, what in the heck are you doing? You're screwing this up. So I think the older I get, the more I don't question the fortitude of the people taking the job. What I question is the methodology of how they were taught. If I could rule the world, Mo Davis would be the fire chief and Mickey Farrell would be the training officer. Period. Period. Mickey
Yeah, it's a good
sees
department. I would certainly be
Yeah.
honored to ride in that department.
Yeah.
Sure.
I, you know, Mickey brings across, and he, I mean, and we know him, and he's a great, great guy, and I'm glad he's a friend. He can take the Bronx, but he can also take Mudflap Township, because he's been there as well. And he sees, you know, the dichotomy in that. But he also can speak a language of understanding and stress the necessity for doing things in order, but doing them correctly.
Yeah.
So I think quality training is only, well, let me say this. Training quality, let me flip that, is only as good as the instructor. And I think what we've seen more of, and I think one reason that we think there's an issue, and you know, maybe people are limping in the process, is because I think we have people that have figuratively in their heads found a gold mine for perhaps instant gratification, recognition, something they're missing. And we have, and I know it's been a topic of discussion in a lot of places, how many training companies are there now versus how many training companies were there in 1976?
Yeah. I mean, certainly, there is certainly a difference today, right? But I wonder, Dave, I don't know if that per se cheapens the delivery, right? Or it cheapens the message, right? I think it just makes sense that there's more training companies today, right? There's more opportunity today, right? There's a way to get your message out there. There's a way to, on the backs of free media to be able to share your thoughts and ideas. And I think I like to tend to believe that most people that are out there instructing believe that they have value to bring to the fire service. I think where we fall short is where people start exiting their lane thinking that they can travel in any lane they want because they have a training company or they have the ability to have people listen. And I think that everybody can bring value in their own way. But I think when you start shaping the minds of the next generation or trying to add value to the fire service by teaching your insights and offerings, you better damn well know that you're one of the best in your field and that you can bring that, bring it to the table. And I think that's maybe where some of the disconnect is that today I think people are willing to take an opportunity when opportunity presents itself instead of saying, this isn't for me, that's not my audience, or this isn't my mechanism of training, or I'm a thermal imaging guy. That's what I'm going to stick with, right? I know thermal imaging. I've been through a tremendous amount of training myself. I'm from a fire department that we, from early on adopted thermal imaging and like that type of thing, right? So he has the lineage and the allowance to talk to that discipline. But if he rode an engine for 34 years and then now he wants to speak truck tactics, I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying that the nuances of his training will probably be rather bland and pretty broad stroked compared to somebody that's ridden a truck for 34 years, right? Does that make sense?
What you just said is exactly the way I feel. Because I think what happens is that there tends to be, since they like that, maybe they'll like this.
Sure.
And I've heard so many times from people, and the circles that we go in, people know people, and there's reputations out there, good and not so good. And you have people that have not stayed in their lane. They're advertising they teach this, they teach that. And then the problem I have with it, people come away and go, man, that was a great class. Well, where did they get the information for that class? They got it from a Mike Lombardo, a Bob Pressler, a Mike Dugan, a Mo Davis, a Mickey Farrell, Mike Champo. I've seen that ripped off how many times? So it's like, well, yeah, it's a great class because they took it from a great instructor who developed the class. And then the problem I have with it is that the person that's, will be nice, the person that has borrowed or is marketing that class doesn't, just what you said, doesn't understand the nuances, the trial and error, the things that had to happen to make the original author's class great. So when something changes in the field, or that instructor who's using somebody else's class gets a question they can't answer, then what happens? Because they didn't nurture the class from the grassroots, from the ground up. And that's where I see it.
It's in the mistakes, Dave, right? Like you,
oh, absolutely.
if you haven't if you haven't made the mistakes, you can't teach it, right? Because then you don't know the ins and outs, right?
Because they don't have the experience to go along with the knowledge.
Correct.
In my classes, and I took it from Bob Pressler. I put up a picture of a waffle and a tomato, and I said, "What's the difference between knowledge and experience?" Knowledge is tomato is a fruit. Experience is you don't put tomatoes on waffles. So, but that I said, hey, that's
good.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And then we get pushback about they buck when we call them out, and I don't know. There's part of me that wishes we could have a clearinghouse for instructors, because I have to tell you, I've seen big city guys try to teach small town tactics. Doesn't work so well. They assume a lot.
Yes.
Vice versa.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that's not the way it works. That's why I've been thankful to be around the people I've been around. I've tried to stay in my lane. People go, "Oh, are you a New York guy?" No, I'm not. Never have been. Never, did I want to be? Sure. But that wasn't my lane. My lane
Right.
was here. And I think as we get into the training, I think too that I don't know that there's always a need for more drills. I think the drills that are being done need to be better, and qualifying them through timing. You've got, or what can you get done in 30 seconds, or what can you achieve in 30 seconds, as far as getting lines out, getting ladders thrown, and all that. I think the standards of the training itself need to be raised. And I'll go back to instructors. I have seen instructors, small town approach, combination departments, volunteer companies. I've seen instructors pass people that were physically unable to accomplish the tasks, but they pass them anyway because it's somebody's, relative, or I don't know, whatever. And to me, that smacks.
It's easy to pass the problem on to the next guy, right?
Right. And unfortunately, some people I know right now going through that because an academy said, "Well, we just got to get them to pass a test. The rest is up to you." That's not the way it used to be.
No.
And you and I have talked about this before.
Sure.
I think true academies, should be exclusionary. Hey, if you can't make it, you can't make it. Not everybody was meant to do this job, but that also goes back to something we've discussed before. We advertise like it is. Oh, hey, anybody can do this. We'll help you through it. And when they don't achieve, they're like, well, it's your fault because you told us we could. So I think we need to look at the fire service itself and really take stock into, what are we doing? Where are we going? What do we want of this? I'd rather have somebody say, no, I can't do this. Dude, I'll buy you dinner. Because there's things I don't want to do. There's things I can't do.
Sure.
Do I want to scuba dive? Do I want to be a coal miner? Nope. I'm out. And all
No
that.
scuba diving for you?
No, that's the YG. He's awesome. And one of the grandsons. But yeah, Jeff's doing amazing stuff with his scuba diving. Amazing.
Okay.
I saw something the other day. I don't know if you're familiar with John Spera.
Yes.
Yeah, Fit to Fight. Fit to
Yes.
Fight Fire, I think. Yeah. I saw this and I wanted to borrow his quote. It says, creating soft standards that anyone can meet for a hard job not everyone can do is irresponsible and unethical. Not everybody can do the job, and that's okay. But I don't know, maybe that goes back to what are we looking at? Are we getting resilient people? Are we getting people that are going, wow, that's great pay and I get all this time off? Pal, that's not why I joined the fire service. We talk about the old days. Everybody I knew joined because we wanted to fight fire. People can go back and say, man, I read Report from Engine Company 82, I had the Firehouse Table book and all that. Well, sure, because New York City had everything got photographed back in the day.
Sure.
That was probably the most photographed fire department ever.
No doubt.
And still is.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to, all these photographs and these photographers, all these guys that are out there, Matt Daly and I can think of a couple other, but I can't pull their names right now. But Matty's the one I know the best. I mean, look, he's getting ready to bring a book out of his photographs. You look at Billy Noonan in Boston, right? Those have been around for how long? My department didn't have a photographer. The departments next to us, big cities, nobody had photographers.
Right.
Not that were published in that way. So that's what we thought the fire service was about. We wanted to go fight fire. We wanted to crawl those hallways. We only got our EMT because we had to, because somebody decided we were going to do that job too,
I love how your face just lit up when you said that. Yeah.
Well, now, and I'm talking to these people down here in Florida, they got to go get their paramedic first, then try to get on a fire department. Well, what does that tell you our focus is now?
I was having that conversation the other day where guys have to put themselves through every ounce of training on their own dime to be able to get considered to be hired for these jobs these days, right?
Yeah.
And I think about too is paramedic engine company, right? And it's like, okay, I get it, but what's the primary focus on now? It's paramedic engine, so does that mean you're paramedic first, engine company second? Right? Like, is firefighting as important as your paramedic license? Where's the focus, right? Like that to me is what's starting, I think, and I don't do emergency medicine. Like, I'm not an EMT. I'm not a paramedic. I never have been. I never want to be. I never will be. I'm a fireman, right? And so I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or indifferent. What I'm getting at, though, is people that have to wear multiple hats every single day on their job. How do you get good and dialed in on one specific discipline when you're being pulled in several directions every tour you go into the firehouse? It becomes very challenging, right? We're asking our people to do more and not giving them the necessary tools to learn those jobs to the best of their abilities. We constantly go wide. Like, one of the best things I heard is, let's not go wide, let's go deep. Like, we keep asking for people to do more and more, so we're going wider and wider. I'd rather you stay narrow and go deep. That tells me you know your job, you know the nuances of the job, and so when called upon to do so, I can trust that you're going to be able to follow through on all cylinders.
I think that is absolutely spot on, because ask somebody, particularly coming up through my generation, you'll see somebody doing a presentation and they will put their resume up on a slide. And I'm not going to say I'm guilty, but it was a matter of course. Firefighter, paramedic, hazmat tech, this, that. How many things are there? And it's like you said, you can't get all of them that deep in an entire career.
Right.
You just can't. And God knows, the poor volleys, they don't have time to get that deep. It just doesn't work that way. So, no, I agree with you completely. When we started running EMS, there were people that really liked it. My opinion was, fine, stay with it. If that's what you want to do, you're good at your lane, so to speak.
Right.
Hey, knock yourself out. But yeah, how do you keep that going? But it has become the standard now, and I see more and more departments that were fire only. And it's, you know, some of those dirty secrets. I see departments that were fire only and had a regional EMS or a county EMS. County EMS is going away. The fire department's taking it. And why are they taking it? What's always the attraction to any governmental entity?
Show me the money.
Boom. Guess what, guys? You're going to start taking it so we can start billing people, so we can start getting our budget increased. So, yeah.
I wonder, Dave, I'm kind of, this is pretty cool, right? So this conversation now is kind of coming around for me, and I'm finding correlation between what we were talking about with training and people stepping out of their lane and teaching across the board and taking the opportunity to teach whatever people want to hear about. And
Right.
that's that wider, not deeper. And I wonder if that's where the fire service is, right? We've become, this drives me bananas. I always talk about, and I put a new slide into a program recently. It was a picture of Bob Ross, right? And it was a picture of Bob Ross painting. And I
And his
said,
happy little trees.
happy little trees, right? But happy little trees are painted with a fan brush, which is the details of the painting. But before he gets to the fan brush, he has to use his 2-inch wide brush to put in the mountains and the backdrop and the greenery and the blue sky, right? That's how he paints. He starts with the widest, the broadest brush first, and then he goes down to the finest brush. And when he signs his name at the end, it is a fine-haired, you know, thin little paintbrush that puts, you know, Ross in the corner in red, right? That's his signature. So throughout his painting, it goes from broad and it gets narrower and narrower and narrower into the end. And my problem is today is what I find in the fire service is we are talking in broad strokes, period. It is not very common anymore to find people to go super detail oriented. And so we're talking about the fire service in broad strokes. Meanwhile, we have fire departments that staff apparatus, 5, 6 on an apparatus, and they have thousands of firefighters and hundreds of firehouses. And then we also have fire departments that have dirt floors and apparatus that are 40, 50 years old, and it's truly neighbor helping neighbor. How can we talk about the fire service in such a generalities when in fact it's so very different? And I'm kind of tired of where we are today in 2025 when we talk about the fire service. It's this broad stroke. It's this one thing, the American Fire Service. Bullshit. Right. There's so many categories under the American Fire Service, and we have to talk in those nuanced conversations or we'll never make progress. And so the whole point of this rant is that we have to stop talking broad and get detailed. And detail shows the credibility and pedigree of the people that are speaking. And that, I think, is where attention to detail 100% matters.
When you said credibility, that was going to be my next rant. So you just stole my thunder.
Let's go.
I do want to advertise something though. See this back here?
Yeah.
I watch this every day. That's some of Sue's work. You know. I watch it go from blank to this. There's a couple around here that I would tell you are just absolutely breathtaking. So credibility, that goes back to staying in the lane. That goes back to, look, if you want to teach something, teach what you do, teach what you know. That's what I did. The first thing back in '99, it's quantitative, it's measurable. Big Truck, Small Crew came out in the magazine in '99. That's what I've rode with all these years. You know, I haven't done 8 Shapes. I haven't done, Wildland. I haven't done Crash Fire Rescue. I've done Small Crew, Suburban Operations.
Dave, do you remember what month that was? In '99?
May of '99. It was Big Truck, Small Town, and then Big Truck, Small Crew evolved from that.
Awesome, yeah. Because I have my library of fire engineering magazines, so
yeah.
I'm gonna go find them.
Yeah.
I wanna read them.
And you talk about like thermal imaging. I did get involved in thermal imaging as well because I don't like it. I don't like technology. I don't like any of that. But after I saw it, Safe IR came to our department when we bought our first imager because the department heads wanted an imager. I said, you know something? I'm not thrilled with this because we've been fighting fire without them for decades, or for hundreds of years. But if we're going to do it, I want to learn everything I can about it, and I want it done right.
Yeah.
And we had some of the absolute best in the business come out and do our class, and I thought, yeah, okay, I kind of like this. I've probably done more classes in showing people how you get yourself in trouble and screw things up with a tick. And I put people in because they put me in a difficult situation that I thought, oh, I got this. No, I didn't. Not by a long shot. And thank heavens it was training because I screwed it up royal.
Yeah.
But after that, there we go. Back to what you said. I made the mistakes. I learned from the mistakes. Now you put that in a curriculum both ways and you show what's going on. I've had people, I've taught at places where I said, okay, it's going to be a 2-person search. This group's going to have a tick. This group isn't. Same room, same setup, same conditions. And I said, you guys with the imager are going to take half again as long to make the search than the people with the tick. Or people with the tick are going to take half again as long as people without the tick.
Right.
Why? Because the people without the tick search conventionally. They hustled, they moved, they felt. As soon as you get the tick in your face, you're looking at everything. It's human nature. We're a visual species. That's our prime thing of defense. We want to see what's out there because that's how we navigate. I mean, think about it. Human beings suck in the dark. That's why we have night vision. That's why we have thermal vision, right? So, but I wanted to do that. But then when I go to departments and say, do you know the NFPA has a standard that if you own a thermal imager and you have it in operation, you must do these things. And they're like, well, I never heard that before. Well, nobody does. Last time somebody sat down and read NFPA, right? But in the thermal imaging portion, you must, if you're gonna, you got to do this. Everybody's got to be trained, all the features of the camera, all this, that, and the other, but nobody knows that. So the whole thing about going deep, exactly. Somebody needs to go deep in that department and take it and run with it. And, I think that resilience, fortitude, what's the word I'm looking for? Somebody's got to have character. Somebody has to have a heart of purpose.
How
people
about
talk
taking
about
ownership, right? Signing your name to it.
Exactly.
I find so many people today don't want to sign their name to anything because then it puts the responsibility on them. And I think when we can't own it, we don't move forward.
Well, and I think there's a difference. I think you'll hear a lot of times, are you committed or are you obligated?
Ah, I love that. Explore that further, Dave. Go.
All right. Are you committed to do this? Like I said back in the day, we wanted to be firemen. We wanted to go fight the fire. We wanted to do that because we wanted that experience that we were reading on the pages to come alive. I'm third generation. I went to fires, and as a kid, my dad, would talk to me about this, look at that. I got the smells, I got all this, that, and the other. And it was like, I like what I'm, today we call it the vibe, but I liked what I'm seeing on the fire ground, how people work together, how this all fits, and that you're doing something, going back to what we first started to discuss, the mission. You're doing something where you're intervening in a bad situation, whatever that may be. And again, whether it's military, Leos, or whatever, you're intervening in that situation. One of the things too that, committed versus obligated, when I would have, where I was teaching a rookie school, a level 1, level 2 class back in Ohio, one of the things I would always ask is, why are you here? What do you mean, what am I here? Why are you here? And we know some of the stereotypical answers. I'm here to help people. So is the Salvation Army. If you want to do that, go join the Salvation Army. My brother, my mom, nope. That's not a qualifier by any stretch of the imagination. When I would hear something like, I want to go in, I want to fight fire, I want to have a commitment to this. The other ones were obligated. This person's committed. I want to do this job. I want to make it, be the best that I can. And that showed me where they had a heart of purpose and focus and that depth that you were talking about, going deep. I like some of the ones that had the unbridled initiative. Sometimes you wanted to put shock collars on them. But
I needed a shock collar every once in a while. So,
yeah.
I mean, those guys are okay in my book.
They are, provided we get them
We got to rein them in.
training and how to channel it. I mean,
That's
it's like
right.
having a Belgian Malinois. You can make it do amazing things, or you're going to be replacing your furniture every 6 weeks.
Correct.
You know that?
That's
Okay.
that's such a great analogy. Yeah, that's 100% accurate, Dave.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So I think that back in the day, and I've been fortunate, and I'll preface that, I've been fortunate to have two careers. I had a career where I was on the job, was able to do a lot of things, started getting into instructing, which I thought, there's portions of me to this day, I still think it's imposter syndrome, but nonetheless, started to get into this, and then I started seeing the bigger picture about how things work, and we weren't the only game in town, and you're not getting that rehash of the people that were in your job. Let me sidestep of that a little bit, in that back in my day, you could try out the fire service. You could get on a volunteer department. What's happened to the volunteer fire service? You're a member of it. What's happened to it?
Yeah, it's
nationally? It dwindles.
Yeah.
It's dwindling. It's going to nothing. Places are being built up, paid departments, all this, that, and the other. You can't try on the fire service anymore. You either got to buy it, and it works, or it doesn't. You don't get a chance to return it. It's not like an Amazon package. Before, you could try the volleys, go to some fires, go to some trainings. Yeah. And somebody, okay, yeah. Back in my day, there's a couple people that excelled, became chiefs, whatnot else, because we tried it on. We got to be explorers, and then went from there. Now, there isn't that much. Those opportunities are evaporating, and probably, and you drive by a place, how many places are for sale? All this acreage. Oh, developer just bought this. Well, you're going to have a full-time fire department here pretty soon.
Yes.
The volunteers can't do it anymore. So I think that, you see that coming in. You can't try it on and find out if it's for you and learn the camaraderie. I mean, think about the volleys, man. Think about the volleys. Not that it doesn't happen in career departments. Think about the volleys. Lousy weather, 2 o'clock in the morning job. You get back, you're cleaning up the station, getting the hose repacked, thawed, what else, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's got a smile on their face. We went out, we had a job. We fought some fire, we did this. This is what we did, da-da-da-da. Career departments, yeah, good job, this, that, and the other. Get everything cleaned up, back in service, hit the sack. But in the volunteers, it seemed like there was a little more esprit de corps back then. I also think, too, in having the second part of my career, a second career, so to speak, after I retired, being able to teach at another fire academy, a state fire academy, and getting more of an opportunity to instruct nationally at different conferences, I saw a change in that in the old days, you looked at a class, let's just say 20, a probie class of 20, there were probably 2 or 3 that you're going, you shouldn't be here. You need to go to Waffle House or something.
Right. Yeah.
Now, a lot of times we see that, there's 2 or 3 that are going to kick ass and take names, another 5 that'll probably do it, but the majority, I think they're just here for the pay and the days off. And I've seen a switch in that. I don't see the desire to win as, what I want to call it, not sacrifice exactly. Man, we weren't going to let the fire get us. We were going to, we were going to do whatever it took and we were going to take a beating, and you hear guys talk about that. We knew we were going to take a beating, but we did it anyway. Now it's like, all right, hold up, everybody back out. So I'm not faulting that. I'm just saying it's different. And then when you look from then to now, I think that's how some of us old guys view it.
Yeah, and so I'd love to jump in here, Dave, because like we were talking about this before, compare and contrast, right? And so I love going down this road because it is different today. I've been having these conversations lately about like, I'm always here, rah, rah, we got to fight for this, fighting for, and so on. Is that dog ripping up the furniture, Dave?
No, somebody woke him from his nap, and
we train our dogs in my house.
Hey, what do you think?
He's just listening to you rambling on, you know? He's like, I hear this every day.
I don't know, might have been an Amazon guy.
Yeah, no big deal. He's welcome to join the conversation. But where I was going with this is I can absolutely appreciate what you're saying because there is absolute truth to that, right? But I wonder today is like, okay, maybe the ones coming through the door today are a little bit different. They come from a different place, a different background, a different pedigree. They're not as blue collar and don't have the mechanical aptitude that you and I had growing up, right? That's not their fault because they didn't grow up with that opportunity, right? They were more tablets, video game focused, right? All that stuff. Right. And that's just where society took. It's not so much riding bikes anymore and playing in the woods and building forts. It's playing video games in the basement of their house, right? Like, it's not their fault. It's how we progressed as a society.
Oh, absolutely. We don't have to fix anything anymore. You know, they're not on. You and I'd go out, we'd throw a chain or get a flat, and we'd have to hump it back to the house and fix it in the garage. Right. That doesn't happen anymore.
So now when we and through that type of upbringing for us, you learn from your mistakes. You know that you're going to jump your bike off that curb, and if you don't lift that front tire enough, you're going to go over the handlebars, but you're not going to do it again, right? We learned from our mistakes because we paid the consequence. We got our tooth knocked out. We fell and got scraped or cut up. The kids
I still got the scar on my leg. Yeah.
God, I could take you on a tour of the scars that I have from my childhood, right? Think about that, right? So there was personal consequence, whereas today, playing video games, if you die in a video game, you come back to life. You don't get hurt. You didn't fall off the couch playing a video game and break your arm. You know what I'm saying? So now you fast forward to the fire service. We are still a blue-collar job, and there are tremendous consequences personally and for those around you. And so we require so much from you, but that just means that we have to work harder at the get to align these kids coming in to understand the expectations. This is what the fire service stands for. These are the values that we require from you. And oh, by the way, there is personal sacrifice here. I know your life is important. I know your family is important, but so is this job, and you took an oath to it. And so at the end of the day, we have to work harder than ever before to educate those coming in. And this is where I get in a little bit of trouble sometimes, and guys like you get a little annoyed with me when I start pointing the finger back at the older guys. And I say, it's very easy to point at the young kids and blame them and point the finger, and these kids don't know jack shit, they're lazy, they don't have work ethic, this and that. Are we going all in on them like our mentors did with us? Or are we getting softer too today? The older generation today in our firehouses, are we more focused on our own stuff like we all are these days? Or are we focused on the guys around us? Are we quiet quitting? Right? That's that corporate term where people are like, if they fall out of love with it or they get they get turned off by it, instead of fighting back or pushing, it's not worth the fight anymore, and they just quietly quit on the job. And now they're not going all in. They're not helping or pushing forward or grabbing a conversation with a kid or taking an extra minute after a call or a training session, pull the kid aside and have a conversation with them because they just write them off. And they don't want to have that stress of it anymore. They don't want to fight back. They don't want to have to work themselves. And so I truly wonder if our older generation is hurting us as well. And I'm part of it. I'm freaking guilty, Dave.
I understand. I understand where you're going with it. And I think that this generation we're happy to talk to somebody that appears interested.
That's
And
yes.
you
But
know,
the appearance of interest is different today than the appearance of interest of yesterday.
right. And when I've been at conferences, they'll come up afterwards or whatnot else, and not just me. I mean,
Sure.
look at the quality of instructors that we hang around with, right? And they'll go up, we're dying to tell somebody something, and it's like, hey guys, you want to stick around? You got any questions? Happy to go over this. Well, they got to go do this, and they got to check their phone. One or two will. Well, those are the ones I want to grab and say, come on. And I want to show you this guy over here. I want to tell you to go listen to this podcast over here, and type of thing, to give them that. I think that I
Do
did
you
a
think,
little
though,
research.
Dave, I just want to jump in real quick. I don't want you to
Go.
don't lose your thought.
No.
But is it our ego that wants those kids to ask us for more?
Sure.
Maybe today, instead of saying, hoping that somebody will come up after we teach, right? Listen, I teach my stuff, and I love when people line up to talk to me afterwards. I'm honored, right? But it's also a little bit of an ego boost for me. But how about if I said to everybody in that class, guys, class is over. I know you got to get going, but listen, I'm going to be here for 5 minutes. If you want to hear some more stories, or you want to go a little deeper on something, stick around, man. I would love to engage you. I wonder if the older guy, the instructor, taking that approach instead of looking for people to come seek them.
I think that's excellent, and I've seen a number of them do it, and I guess I kind of misspoke, but
No,
it's like, hey,
you're good.
we're going to be here for a little bit. Let's do this.
Yes.
One thing you and I've talked about too, and this plays into it. You have firemen versus fire department members, fire department employees, and I think that's where a lot of the dividing line is. Can we bring some of the fire department members? Because we have been places. The one time we were with Steve in Texas doing the towers and stuff, there was a couple of times I'd watch and these are guys in big city departments with gone to more than one fire, and all of a sudden they're like, wow, why didn't they teach that before? And that's awesome. Well, guess what? You just hooked them. Now you open the door for them to become firemen, and like you said, hey, we're going to be here for a little while. We got some other stuff we'd like to show you, and I think that's brilliant. That ought to be under the helmet, brim of the helmet with the other sticker. But going down that path, so I was trying to do a little research and some preparation. Actually, wrote some stuff down. Some recruiters, a guy named Simon Sinek.
Yep.
I love to hear him speak. And he talked about recruiters at a high school, military recruiters, right? And he said the Air Force comes up, gives a great PowerPoint, gave a great speech why you should be in the Air Force. This is the history of the Air Force. This is what we've done. The Army comes up, great speech, the Army, this, that, and the other, 1776, da-da-da-da-da, great PowerPoint speech. Navy, same thing. Marine Corps gets up. This DI gets up, doesn't say a word. Just starts looking at everybody around the room. Doesn't say a thing. He looks around and goes, nope, I don't see anybody qualified to be in my Corps because it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. So no, I don't see anybody qualified. If you disagree and want to talk about it, I'll be in the back of the room. The line was huge.
Love that.
Because now you're giving them something I can achieve. I don't just get, I can achieve. And that's why, and I guess a lot of guys my age, I think the advertising we're doing for people needs to be more of a, not what we can do for you, not how many days off you're going to get. What can you do for us? What do you bring to the table that we should pick you over this next candidate or this next applicant? What can you bring?
When you look at winning fire companies, what they all have in common is they give purpose and they drive excellence for their people, which gives their people opportunity to make themselves better and their contribution bigger. And that's what people want. Like at the end of the day, how you feel good at night and you put your head down on the pillow and go to bed is if you're fulfilled, if your life is fulfilled. And when it comes to the fire service, it has nothing to do with you. It's about us. And so we want you to be a part of us, but the only way you can be is if you give yourself to us. That's what we need from you. And I say this all the time, that mission over me thing, Dave. I say it this way. You'll never make the wrong decision if you always put the mission first. Take yourself out of the equation, right? If you insert yourself into what you're thinking about, you'll probably make the wrong decision because you're going to make a decision based upon what's best for you and not the mission. So remove yourself from the conversation and just say, what's best for my company? What's best for the public? What's best for this fire department? And you'll probably make the right decision every single time.
So, you know, as I get a little older and all that, and there are a lot of great people doing a lot of the heavier work that I'm out of. But this is part of what I did. So the last class that I put together to take on the road, and I have taken on the road, it's called Be That Company.
Love that.
And I want that company, and I got this, and again, I think that we certainly can borrow ideas, we can borrow concepts, we can take that, but at least give the people who came up with it credit.
Yes.
You have to. Because, you know, if I was taking a class now, I would say, where did you get your information? Is this something you developed? Or is it something that you've taken from somebody else, et cetera? So when I say be that company, that was inspired by a conversation that I've heard both from John Salka and from Tim Klett, because it wasn't uncommon for John to have a fire. Tim would be on the box, but he's coming in maybe first due on the second, third due, whatnot else. John's got all these people around him. He sees Tim walking up, and he goes, come here.
Correct.
Going past everybody. Why?
Yes. Why?
Because he knows it's a known quantity. He knows what's going to happen. He knows the quality of the operation. I'm, and I'll brag, I would say probably the latter half of my career, we did a lot of mutual aid. And even now, with Jeff sometimes, there are departments that will pass the next one on the box and say, you know, give me Huber Ladder Company, because they know what they're going to do. And my guys had trained and trained and trained to the point of where we'd roll up and the IC would go, oh, yep, give me you guys. That smacks of what you just said. Mission before self, the company gets better, and all that. So, because we didn't train just on our fire, we trained on other fires. We didn't have high-rise or low, you know, we didn't have 3 or 4 story in our first due, but we were going mutual aid to these places, so we had to know how to operate. So we didn't just stand there going, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So that type of thing. And there again, the mission being that, but also looking outside your company to get information to enhance your company. So, you know, Chief Donch, we're here. Oh yeah, Dave, let's go to work. And people go, wait, we're here first. Well, I don't trust you.
Yeah, I mean, the fireground's got spectators too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. But no, I agree. I think character of purpose, and I see, you know, we talked about compare and contrast. Mission's the same. I think how we're getting there. But I think, you know, you also might find out too that you see these memes of, oh, Grandpa, you know, how'd you used to clear a building in the Pacific in World War II? It's a lot different than they do it today.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But there again, any entity, any organization, operation that intervenes for the betterment of something, I think you have to have that particular degree of blue-collar aggression.
Sure.
You know, you have to be fast. And aggressive is not a bad term. And you got to be a little bit toxic, so that, you know, they say a lot of times, and to fight the monster, you have to become the monster. And I think a lot of us old guys have carried that. But you've got to have some of that in you. You've got to have that warrior thing going on.
I think there's a lot there. And what I want to ask you is, I didn't jump in, and I don't I can say this to people listening, like, go back and listen to our past episodes. You've been on, I think, 2 or 3 other times, right?
Two.
So, for me, like, I know a lot of your backstory, but for people that aren't listening, I mean, you started in 1976 in the fire service. From
Right.
79 to 2004, you were with Huber Heights, Ohio, right? And that was a busy time for you guys. And my point is this: you've been retired for 21 years, Dave.
Yep.
21 years. But your passion and love is still there. Excuse me. And so my point is this: how hard is it for you at times, right? And I kind of want to just segue a little bit, because we talked about this before we hit record. 21 years of not riding on a fire truck. I know if it was up to you, you'd still run out of the house and throw your bunkers on and get on that rig if you could, right? So I know you're teaching. Gosh, excuse me.
Change
I know you're
brands, pal.
What's that?
Change brands.
Yeah, right. I will say this, right? I know your passion hasn't waned, but I'm sure it gets frustrating at times for you, right? You walked away 21 years ago. You're still very much involved, but I have to think, like, the generations that are no longer on the fire trucks and no longer sitting around that kitchen table as often as you want. It has to be hard for you guys to kind of feel that relevance still, right? And I don't know how to phrase it without, I don't want to insult you by any means. It's not what I'm doing. I'm actually being more endearing. Like, how do you struggle with the relevance of where you are today with the fire service?
Absolutely. That's why I said I don't know, what I have to offer in the context of what today's fire service needs. I think that's the crux. I think the best person for my money right now to bridge that gap is a Mickey Farrell. He can talk to the old guys and he can talk to the new people. He has that ability. I mean, we joke about him. He looks like the guy that works at the Apple store, right? And skateboarder and all that, Tony Hawk's brother type of thing.
Yeah, I love that.
But I
That's
think
good
he
stuff.
has the knowledge base of the old days, but he has the communication skills. He could talk to an 18-year-old.
Well said.
And be
Really
incredibly
well said.
effective.
Yeah.
He could talk to an 80-year-old, he can talk to an 18-year-old. He's got that ability. I think what happens is, and I know, and we joke about it, you go to a conference and you just want to say, dude, do you shave? I mean, come on. And then you find out they're younger than your youngest grandchild, and it's like, oh. And then I think that angst starts to build up of, how do I talk to you man to man or firefighter to firefighter as an adult? Because I don't know that, Jay Blake does a great class. I've had the honor to teach with him a number of times, the push-pull communication. I don't know that I can push information to you and have you understand it. I may have to pull the questions from you to do that, and I don't know that I have that skill set. A lot of us are, it's a glass, you fill it with something and you drink it. That's it. We're not prepared to say, well, what do you fill it with? You put ice in it? To use a straw.
Right.
We have a bad habit of boom.
Give me a beer. I don't care if you got 100 different choices. Just put a beer in my cup, right? Like,
right.
I get it.
Right.
I totally get it.
And the darker, the better.
Right.
So I think that we do not have, what do I want to say? We don't have a positive stigma in our generation like the Warriors guys did. Okay. They are fated, they are written about, they are, that's once in a lifetime. That will never happen again in the history of this planet, right? And and it's like Dennis Smith said, whether it was Boston, LA, San Francisco, DC, everybody had it. It's just that the FDNY got better press, quite frankly. Because I talked to, guys from back then, and they're like, oh, geez, yeah, So we don't have that, and we aren't the tech savvy. I think, you talked about the generations differ. I agree in that if you have a cool web page, it gives you credibility. Maybe false credibility, but it gives you credibility because people are listening to you. But that's why, I would love for somebody to come up with you hear about police departments getting credentialed,
Right.
and all that type of stuff. I'd like to see instructors get credentialed. What kind of classes do you teach? What's your background? What's your ability to teach that type of thing? Are you a guy that's riding a tanker and you want to talk about crash fire rescue, or vice versa? A lot of us in our teaching group are from different places, but everybody brings that little mosaic tile of something different to that. And I don't know if there's a way to offer credential credibility or what, but I think one of the things that would help the American Fire Service is for people going to classes, ask the instructor, where are you from, what'd you do, how'd you arrive at this? I think those are legitimate questions anybody should be prepared to answer.
I would agree 100%. I also think too is I always tell everybody, right, because this conversation always comes up about credibility and what's their pedigree. They're online. Anybody can be online, and yeah, you can. I would say this: look at who they run with.
Exactly.
Look at who their friends are. Look at who they surround themselves with. Their friend group that they actually interact with and not just follow. Right. So on social media, look at who they're talking about, who they join with, who they break bread with, who they converse with, who they're friends with. That speaks volumes, because at the end of the day, the right circles run with the right people. And so that's why, for me, to be honest with you, Dave, I am incredibly humbled by a lot of these groups that I'm a part of and these circles that I get to be a fly on the wall. And in fact, I say it to people all the time, but it is very rare that I ever speak in a lot of these groups that I've been welcomed into. It's only because I feel like I don't have the pedigree or experience to be there, other than I'm there to listen and learn. And I'm grateful for that, pal. I'm grateful for that. I recognize that.
I understand that completely. And like I said, there's been times, when we've been at conferences and I'm thinking of who I'm instructing with and people that have asked me to come and whatnot. So I'm laying there looking at the ceiling going, I got no business here. These guys are like so far above me.
Well, you do, sir. You do.
Well, it's easy for the imposter syndrome to creep in, because you're wondering, going back to a previous question you had, you're wondering what you bring to the table. Mm-hmm. And then you find out, all right, well, we all couple hose the same way, and we may throw ladders different, and this is why I throw it this way. Why do you throw yours that way? Or something along that line. And there's been plenty of times I've been at a conference where I'm teaching next to somebody going, I can't believe I'm teaching next to them. Holy cow. I'll tell you, the one year, years and years and years ago, at a conference in Baltimore, and we were doing acquired structure stuff. I had only read about the guy, but he and I wound up teaming up to prep this place, and we wound up forcing doors, and it was the first time I met him, and it was right after the rope rescue. I'm forcing doors with Kevin Shea.
Kevin Shea, yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm like, holy cow. And it's like, what a nice guy, and this, that, and the other. And like you say, you put them in your Rolodex, and you foster those relationships. You ask them, what do they think? And it could be totally different of what you have to do because of staffing or equipment or whatever. But it's always, look at some of the groups you and I are on. It's like somebody will fire up, what do you guys think? And all of a sudden, boom, and it's all constructive and helpful.
Well, it's all real conversation though too, right?
True.
And that's what I like, is you gotta surround yourself with people that hold a lot of the same values you do, because then there's an appreciation
that's the
for
truth.
so then there's appreciation for one another, so that when you do disagree, or you don't necessarily believe in or want to support something that maybe is being talked about, you have the respect from that group or those friends to say, I appreciate that, like, thank you for being honest, right? Like, I've seen it a bunch of times where it's like, what do you think of this? And they're like, not so great. And you're like, wait a minute, I thought it was great. Like, what? And we can have discourse and talk about it back and forth, but we have that mutual respect built in for one another. And I think that that's incredibly important. And we come from the generations that were willing to speak our minds. That's the one thing that I love about the older generation, right? Especially in the firehouses. They told you how they felt. They weren't shy about pulling you aside and holding you accountable, right, Dave? And so I guess maybe where some of that lives then is that this older generation that's no longer riding the fire trucks or turning out for calls, they have a presence about them today that could be considered a little gruff or a little too direct for what people are looking for today. And so it doesn't mean that they're angry or disgruntled. It just means that that's their way of approach or dealing with a situation, right? And this is where, for me, like that reluctance I talked about before, that disconnect that grows over time. And so for me, it's so important to have conversations with guys like yourself that were the generation prior to me, right? You got on in 76. I was born in 77. Right? So you're that generation before me. So I rode fire trucks with guys like you in my early days that really were not afraid to tell me that I wasn't doing it right, or you need to do it this way, or you got to pick up your game, boy, like that type of stuff. And so that's where my tutoring came from, was your generation. But for me, I have such an incredible love for your generation because they inspired me to what the fire service is today for me, right? And so what I want to do with that, and we've been talking about it, and you're going to be my guinea pig, and I want to talk about it on this show because I want people to understand how important this is for me, is I'm starting a new project called the Legacy Project. And the Legacy Project is to capture those stories of the guys that came before me and give them an opportunity to document their stories, their learnings, their teachings, their experience, their pedigree. And you said it before, there's difficulty with technology, right? So there's that disconnect, right? Where technology is advancing so fast, and innovation is at the strong point of where, people are having a hard time keeping up with it. But that's where I excel. I'm taking a message of the fire service, protecting the traditions and culture of the fire service, and putting them on platforms of which people are paying attention to today, right? So we're innovating the delivery of a traditional and cultural message that needs to be protected. The idea of the Legacy Project is to give a guy like yourself the opportunity to document on audio and video. I haven't talked to you in the video portion yet, but you will be on video. We're going to document your stories and experiences at your time and your level. Meaning, and what I pitched to you, Dave, was every morning when you have your cup of coffee, I just want you to do exactly what you're doing with me right here, but you're going to do it on your own studio, and you're going to record 5 minutes or 30 minutes and talk about insights or a story or something that was a learning lesson or whatever you want it to be. I want to be able to help capture the stories of those guys so that you don't take all this stuff to the grave with you, brother. I know you got another 50 years on this planet, Dave. You got a long way to go. But I need you to leave your insights, knowledge, and experience for the next generation. I want to be that guy to help you do that.
Well, I think it's brilliant. I appreciate your interest in archaeology. I think that's pretty awesome as far as that goes. You were talking about that, and the mentors like we had, and people talk about it, but if you think about our mentors, we're talking even in some cases, my parents were both World War II vets, right. So I have a particular way I was raised, right? And it was a lot of no nonsense type of thing. With my dad particularly, he was in Italy and all that. Then you wind up working with guys that were in Korea and Vietnam. One of the weirdest but most incredible guy I think I ever met was a legitimate tuttle rat, a Nam tuttle rat. You talk about having a different value system,
Right.
you know, than somebody that was my age at the time, that was just totally infantile in behavior and everything else. And I think they pulled no punches because they were used to pulling no punches, because it kept them alive, and they made the correlation between being in country in a combat zone and going to a fire.
Right.
It was a natural attachment, because you're going to get hurt, you get killed, you know, if you're not paying attention and doing your part, doing your assignment, doing your job. So I think that's where a lot of that came from. And it also, in my generation too, I think what started, because I remember back, my generation was probably the first generation that started leading to divorce being a common thing. I think that was the grassroots period. Before that, it was hush hush, and no, they're not married anymore. And then it was like, oh, hey, did you hear, and you wind up in classes in elementary school, junior high, and high school, and it's like, oh, my parents are splitting up. Well, nobody had ever heard of that before. So now you've got people looking for guidance, looking for mentors. They get in the fire service, they latch onto this dude, who's chain smoking Camel unfiltered and not wearing a pack and getting the job done, and you're just like, whoa, what's going on here? Nothing you've ever seen before. But the attraction in sense of purpose, in strength of character, and all that starts to appeal. And I think that appeals to anybody, just like the Marine recruiter was doing. If you think you've got a different plan, come let me know. We'll talk. If you don't agree with what I had to say. Now you want to achieve. Now you want to do that. It goes back to what you were saying. But I'm flattered. I think there's a lot of people I can think of right off the bat who it's been my honor to know and to be around and to learn from, will also, as this takes off, be excellent resources. And even if it's the old, across the table, back step, kitchen table, that one time.
Yep,
type
that's
of
all
thing.
I'm looking for.
And Sue, I'll pop off with something, and Sue's like, you need to write that down, because somebody's going to want to know about that someday. I'm like, no.
Oh my God, that sounds familiar, Dave, huh?
So,
I have been
yes,
on Dave
I'll let you
Gallagher's
know that
ass.
you're
I've been on Dave
chastising me
Gallagher's
as well.
ass for years to write a memoir,
So,
because
I have a list.
we haven't even scratched the surface of the things that you've been a part of, the memories you have made, and the experiences you have gained over your tenure in the fire service, Dave. You are a unique individual that knows so many and have been a part of so much. And that is why I see the value that you offer. And if it's technology and relationships that are getting in the way of you sharing your stories and experience, then I want to be the guy that is able to capture that, because I value our friendship so much. I value what you bring to the table for the American Fire Service at such a high level. And I know there's so many guys like you out there. And so let's create a platform where we can capture your stories and experiences and share them with the fire service, so that we don't run out of you guys. We don't run out of your stories. We have them there in perpetuity to make this job as good as it can be.
Well, I was trying to find it in my notes, but I haven't been able to find it. But my list that I've got. But no, I'm flattered. I'm honored that you're going to use me as a guinea pig. I think so yeah, I think it will be, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm also looking forward to passing on other people's stories as well. And I think, if nothing else, one of the things I've done lately is I've told young people, I said, and I have a slide, and it's got Report from Engine Company 82, it's got Commish, the Stapleton books. I got one other one there. I can't remember what it is. I said, read these, because it'll let you know it's okay to be this way, to be a fireman. I'm reading these guys around the kitchen table, jacking with each other. And it's okay to do that because you're building camaraderie.
Yes.
You don't be nasty. You don't be rude. You don't be, sexist. You don't be a jerk. But it's all right to mess with each other, because it's like, if I can't mess with you here and now and make a joke about something, right? Not an insult, but a jab, a joke, just what we know collectively. What do I expect you to do in the hallway when it goes to shit? Are you that thin-skinned? Because if it goes bad, you're probably going to run. Like I said, we don't need to be mean, but we can have some fun. Sarcasm. Oh my gosh. It's awesome.
Builds character, sir.
There's a couple times I was watching people try to use hand tools and power tools to put stuff together, take stuff apart, and I'll be like, oh, so you're no-handed then. But just
That's
stuff
good.
like that. So
yeah.
No, like I said, I'm honored and flattered. We'll see when we get cranked out, and
I'm excited
hopefully
for it. I
it'll meet
think,
your approval.
to be honest with you, Dave, I think once you start getting into it, I think you're going to really enjoy it. I think it's going to be cathartic for you. I think you're going to start finding yourself every single day looking forward to leaving a memory behind. I think it's going to be great.
Well, like I said, I appreciate it, and it goes right along the lines with appreciating the phone call. It means a lot.
Well, I think we all need to do that, and this is that whole thing about, walk with your head up, not with your head down. We get so focused on our own stuff today that we often don't think about those around us, right? We take our friends for granted. We take our family for granted. And at the end of the day, I've come to realize that, I want to live in a world where I walk around with my head up and I'm paying attention to others. And I think that there's so much value in that. And if it means while I'm driving, I'm making phone calls anyway, why wouldn't I want to just catch up with an old friend and just check in with them? It goes a very, very long way. And
it does.
And so that's important for me. And I've made that something of importance for sure. So I would challenge other people to do the same. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. I kind of want to wrap. What's next for Dave Gallagher?
Well, I guess I'll see you in a couple of weeks up at the Joey D, New York.
Almost November.
And then we'll, like I said, sans beard. Got to get rid of that. But then we'll see what happens after.
Looks good on you, for sure. I like it. It's a good look.
Thanks.
Yep.
Got to do something.
Yeah.
But,
well, listen, I appreciate you very much, and I really enjoyed our conversation today. This was
always,
great.
brother. As always, it's an honor and a pleasure.
A lot of great value will come out of this, and I just thank you for your friendship and your steadfast commitment to the fire service. And you've been doing this a long time, and it ebbs and flows, right? We have our highs and lows with it. Even guys that haven't, been on a fire truck in a few years, you're still riding highs and you're still riding lows. And I think at the end of the day, we have to really talk about how good this job truly is and what it's done for us as human beings. I know I can't repay it enough for what it's done for me, and I know you feel the same.
Yeah, I always tell the newbies or whoever has said, don't ever take from this job. It will give to you, but don't ever take from it, ever.
And with that, Dave Gallagher, thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
All right, pal. Let me get my hat on.
Look at that, truck life. I love it. That's a good-looking hat. I'll bring you some new ones when I see you.
I was going to be thrilled to hear that.
Yeah, right. Like you need more hats, but
that's it.
Anyway, Dave, thank you very much for joining me. Stay right here. I'm going to sign off the podcast. I'll come right back to you. Okay, hang on.
All right, Pelly.
Guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the National Fire Radio Podcast. An absolute honor to have Dave Gallagher on today, a friend and a mentor of mine, somebody that I truly admire. Brings a lot of passion and love to the job, and takes care of those around him. So it's somebody that we want to emulate, and certainly somebody we want to share with you, all of you. So thank you for tuning in. And like I say at the end of every single episode, take this conversation, take it back to the firehouse and talk about it, because when we're talking about the job, we're making the job better. I'll see you at the next one. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.
National Fire Radio.